Recording in progress.
Hi, this is Diana Krebs with Olive Well Podcasting. And today we're here with Sharon Fritts. Her company is On The Fritts. She is a coach and she has spent her life as a chaos coordinator. So she has she has been this is a role she was born for. And so now she's turning it into her career. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Sharon and let her tell you a little bit about her story.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm always so excited when people start to talk about the importance of stories. It really helps all of these theories and things come alive for everybody. And whether the story directly impacts you or not, you can always find the parallel and really learn something from it. So I'm really honored to be a part of this.
Thanks. I totally agree with that. I'm so excited to tell people stories.
Yeah, so I guess a little bit about me. I mean, I come from a single mother household, incredibly strong. I don't know how they did all of the parenting back then without all the apps and all of the different ways to connect and network with people in a similar life path. But she did it. I've got a younger brother, so definitely my director of operation background comes in to play there, being the big sister. And yeah, I was diagnosed with diabetes at 11 years old, type 1. And that was probably one of the biggest transition points in my life. I had not heard a lot about it. And so it had the opportunity to be incredibly scary. But really, my mom showed me and then continued to show myself and gather evidence that knowledge was power. And I was in the driver's seat. I could make this what I wanted it to be. And so the diabetes piece was a huge start to a struggle for sure.
Did you know anybody who had diabetes?
I did. And I've actually had some a friend recently diagnosed. And so it's brought me right back to that same place. I did. I was 11, right? So you're sixth grade. The one other friend also had a pretty severe debilitating ADHD as well. And I had a very emotional response of like, no, Mom, I don't want this. And she goes, oh, honey, that's not the only thing happening for this friend. We just oversimplify sometimes as kids. So I remember being really scared. But other than that, it was my first introduction to it.
Yeah, it is kind of scary to be diagnosed as something when you're a kid because then you feel different. Did you feel different than everybody else, even though your daily life was probably very similar to everybody else's, other than the
Yes,
diabetes?
absolutely. Yeah. So this happened it was a couple days after Christmas. So over the school winter break, which was lucky because, at least we had that ability to make some peace with it, figure things out, do the hospital stay, and then be able to go back and kind of decide how we wanted to kind of message it and talk to the friends about it. So we focused a lot with the friends, like I may have to have a snack sometimes or a juice, and it's a medicine and things like that. But it was a little isolating. So that was December of 1999 before we all thought the world was going to maybe end. We did not know what would happen when
Yes.
it turned the year 2000. Everybody was very concerned about all the medical computers and all of the things, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
And just my biggest priority was being out of the hospital in time for our New Year's Eve party, which apparently we were living on the edge of risk there, just even having multiple children in a single place. Yeah, it was definitely something. And I did feel really different until I went to diabetes camp that next summer. We just went up for the day because I wasn't quite ready to fully leave. And it was so cool that we were all testing our blood sugars at the same time and thinking about our food and taking insulin. And it just was probably the first time in a while that I just felt like another person, just another kid.
Yeah, that's nice that they have those kinds of things for
Yeah,
kids.
absolutely. And it truly started to show that power of community, which was so impactful even back then.
Right. So when did you decide to move into the space of becoming a life coach? Do you think that was kind of the starting of the path? Like,
Absolutely. So I was blessed enough to have the algorithm know me better than I knew myself and got a Facebook ad. Um, Oddly enough, dealing in executive burnout. I found myself in this group and they were speaking the language of, hey, you've worked really hard, you've gotten to this really great place in your life, so why aren't you enjoying it? And I went through their program. They also have some additional programs, and I had slid just under the radar, I think, income-wise. So I was not in a place to commit to the next level, but I wanted to keep digging. And so I actually approached them and asked, could you use some help? And so I did some part-time coaching with them, where it allowed me to still be with my littles and do my full-time job. And I worked with some amazing coaches that really just helped continue to grow my interest and my knowledge base when it comes to coaching.
What well, how do you maintain the work-life balance?
With a lot of intention, a lot of trial and error. So it's not that I, as a coach, have it all perfectly figured out and life is, Pleasantville, leave it to Beaver over here,
Right.
anything like that. But I really do a lot of regular check-ins with myself. I personally love to use the wheel of life so that I'm looking at all the different, it's all about balance. And then I like to make sure that I'm doing at least one item in each of the sections that week, that I've put that on the calendar for myself. And I make sure that kind of like when you get your paycheck, you want to pay the bills first. I make sure I'm the first bill that I pay in my week, and then I fit the rest of it in.
Right. So what motivates you to keep moving forward?
Oh, my family. I mean, truly, and just being able to help people. So as I am sitting with people, friends, family, clients, whatever it might be, and I can see them go, oh wait, I can do something about this. It's just seeing that light bulb go off is just feels so good, and it feels so exciting that I know that that's unlocked a next level that they may not have been able to reach before. And then
Right.
having the ability to work from home and really be able to show up for my kids. I've got two boys, 5 and 3. I keep finding myself saying I'm right in the thick of it, and it just keeps getting thicker, but it's fine. But they just have lots of energy. And so just being able to keep myself full in a flexible job is so important to me for sure.
So what would you tell moms that are that have these kids, they're in the middle of all the craziness and they really just want to make a career change?
Do it. Let's do it. Let's make sure your partner's on board or some type of resource on the outside, people that truly believe in you so that you have somebody to help push you through, right? Your inspiration will only take you so far. But really, truly, it's so worth it so that the time that you're spending, right, whether that's part-time, 20 hours a week, 15 hours a week, or full-time, 40 to 50 hours a week, it is so much more impactful time for you and for the people that you're serving, right? We all have different answers in life, and as we
Right.
share them, it really fills up a different part of ourselves.
Right. What about if someone says, I just don't have any more time? How do you find that time?
Yeah, and that was a huge barrier for myself. I like to always go back to the oxygen mask on the airplane, very dramatic situation, right? I was definitely, prior to even getting my own coaching and continuing to do the work, was the type that probably would have helped my husband, maybe my older kid, and then gotten around to myself. Except, let's be real, the husband would have taken the most time, and then I wouldn't have had time to even try to get my own mask on, and then I can't help anybody else. So I truly had to hold on to the logistical thing in my head of if I don't get myself applied with oxygen first, I don't do any good. And the person I was showing up as, funny enough, my burnout was more affecting me at home than at work. And so I knew that's not how I wanted to show up. I had to really find that dissonance of this isn't who I want to be at home. And then I had to really remind myself that I need to plug that oxygen mask on and really get what I needed at the foundation of it.
Right. That's really true. It's like we take all of that home with us and then we let it go when we walk in the doors of work. Like, why do we do that?
Right.
Why are we taking all the stress?
It's so funny. I think the resentment piece was a really fascinating one. I just heard a talk from Brene Brown, and she talked about that she had just always assumed resentment was a function of anger. And then when she had actually talked to somebody who was a researcher in emotion, and she asked him, hey, resentment's anger, right? He said, no, it's actually a function of envy. And when I heard that, it was I mean, we've all heard about jealousy. It makes all the
Right,
sense, right? That person is doing that because they're jealous of you. Okay, but what happens when you're the jealous person? And then inevitably we're showing up as an even worse version of us.
right.
But I truly think that there's something about work. You get paid to be there, so you think, oh, energetically, that makes sense to me. This is going to be hard. It's a job. But nobody pays us at home. Or if they do, it's not as obvious sometimes, right?
Yeah,
And so there's a real mental block, I think, to being aware of the resentment and when you build it in, and that, you know what, you can add those things in. So what are you jealous of? Is your husband able to just go off and do a little extra work if he wants? Can he go to the gym and like nobody chases after him, mommy, on the way out? And then
right.
how do we make sure that we shift it so that you can also do those things?
Yeah. Do you feel like there's a cultural? I sometimes I think there's like a cultural shift now where it was so like, your job was number one, who you were is where you work, what you do, and it feels like there's more of a cultural shift. It's like how you're balanced in life and how happy you are. Like, do you feel that shift in
I
society?
definitely feel that shift. And I think that enough people got to the point where they were making this money. They had climbed the corporate ladder. They had gotten the life they always wanted. I mean, I think that there's that piece, and I'm really glad to hear it, that people are starting to go, but wait, you're not broken. You're probably just have some type of balance that's out of whack. And
Right,
so I do think that there's a slight awareness about like, but how are you, right? How are you really? That's that's made it a little different for
right.
people, awakening them.
It's almost like we're not allowed to say how we really are. How are you? I'm good. You
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
What's going on? I'm just really busy.
Yeah. Isn't it so hard to be like, you know what? I'm having a rough day.
Yeah,
Even when I got on, you said, how are you today? And I go, oh man, it's the fourth Monday. We have to find some way of
right,
buffering, even if it's not, oh, I'm great. I'm good. It's a good
right,
day. Yep.
right. How come we always have to just be good and busy? Like, why can't we just be like, you know what? I'm kind of slowed down. I'm like doing one thing at a time. I'm, you know, putting things that are not necessary on the back burner and just taking my life one day at a time. That's like where
I
we want to get to in life, right? We just want to stop being busy, stop telling people we're busy, and start just making it okay to just be happy.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, there's so many pieces to that I work with the clients is like, what is like, because happy to everybody, I said, just be happy. The picture you just got, the picture I get, the picture that all of the different listeners get in their minds is going to look very different. And it's giving ourselves permission to build your picture. It's okay if so and so doesn't think it's that happy of a life.
Right,
It's
right,
permission to build your version of happy.
right. Even in your
Yeah.
home, sometimes like my husband will say something and I'm like, that doesn't resonate with me. Or I say something and it doesn't resonate with him. And it's very, it's nice that we can live in the same place but have these different thoughts about what makes us happy and then be able to balance each other out. It's like that respect.
That's it. Isn't it so crucial with life partners? Like it's you want to end up in the same place, but
Mm-hmm.
only if the same place looks good to both of you. So it's so important.
Yeah. What what motivates you in like the hard times? What keeps pushing you forward?
Ooh. Oh, such a good question. I really like the idea of being able to unplug a bit, right? So when I go through and talk to people, I always find that they're short on time or money. They usually can pick between the two. So time is a big one for me. You can't exactly buy time.
Right.
But what I feel is that what motivates me to go and crush it, right? And we're going out of town, for example, for our anniversary. I go, great. Here's what I have. Here's the time I have to accomplish that. And no matter how it goes, I'm going out of town. I get some unplugged time, kid-free time, which is magic, magic time.
What about like, has there been like a challenging situation in your past that you have overcome? And when you look at like, obviously you got through it because you're here today.
Yeah.
But when you look back, what would you do differently to get through it now that you're a coach?
Oh, now that I'm a coach, I mean, there's a whole different shift, right? I think really giving myself time to really explore. So I had gone through quite a struggle in my very early adult years. And I think giving myself more time to explore and not rush through to just be finished with the feeling. Really sit with it, understand what is that reminding me of, right? They all say that now. What does that remind you of in your childhood? And
Right.
really think through that because the more that we push things down, it actually gets more powerful. And so I think giving myself more grace and time to truly explore it, sit with the different feelings, versus just getting back into it, right? So I guess the margin I'm looking for with the unplugged time is space. It's space to really just be
Right.
human being instead of a human doing.
It's funny that when you say that, like, just sit with it and like have a feeling, because that's
Mhm.
something we weren't really taught to do back in the day, right? Like, we
Yeah.
weren't supposed to have feelings. We were supposed to just move on from them.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you a okay, if you want to, you know what? Do you need to go to your room for a little bit? Because I was definitely like, I needed to kind of go off to the side a little bit and kind of go feel my feelings, but separate. And what I've learned, I mean, my new job was born from a place where I was being truly vulnerable. I had gone to somebody and said, "Oh, you're right. This life isn't going the way I want it to go, and I need help." And it got me to my next one where I started a business. If you had talked to me back before I started the group and said, Sharon, you're going to have a business in a year, have fun, I would have been like, you're insane to take on something else. But by sitting with it and just almost getting comfy with the uncomfy, right? And understanding where is this coming from and it really truly exploring the different patterns I had in all those pieces, it gave me more pause where I could choose more intentionally to get close to where I wanted to be instead of letting the things shift me what
Yeah.
felt like very automatically into responses.
Right. Right. What about can you tell me about like a mentor that you had and how that shaped you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, what's funny about mentors is I think that automatically we want to go to somebody who truly fully inspires us to, we want to do what they do, right? I think I've had a really beautiful mix of people showing me what to do and what not to do. And I think using those equally, right? Providing equal airtime to those, to both the positive and negative, more negative influences. So I had quite a few characters in my life that were super successful by all terms, right? Great homes, great all the things, right? But if you really looked at each individual piece of the other parts of the wheel, struggles were there. And so it really started to show me like maybe it's not all about money. And not that money had ever been that particularly important to me, but it really just made me start to consider a lot more. Um, I love Mel Robbins. I love Brene Brown. And over on the very famous side, on completely outside of coaching, I mean, if you look at all the famous songwriters, things like Adele and Taylor Swift, again, in the vulnerable pieces, they connected to millions of people, not because of their proudest moments, not because when they were being super successful, but they were being human, right? They
Right.
were falling
Right.
in love, they were falling out of love, and everything in between. And they
Yeah.
were able to put it in a really beautiful, easy to connect to type of way.
Right. And when you hear all that stuff like that, some of these, like Taylor Swift says, and all that, you're not good enough for this, you're not good enough for that, you're dating too much, you're not dating enough, you're like, and for her to come up on, I mean, just think that's such a great role model. And I
Well,
also
and
love that
it
Miley
goes to
Cyrus just won
show.
that Grammy for that song, Flowers, where she
Mhm.
just took this really hard thing that happened to her
Yeah.
and turned it into a Grammy.
Yeah. And that tells us right there that people want real, they don't
Right,
want perfect. And so
right,
this idea of success is perfection and you've got all this money and you're going to all these cool places and you might be. But at the end of the day, like nobody gets away from being human and emotional and needing to, really look at what's working, what's not working. Because newsflash, we all have things that are working and not working. We're human. It's
Right.
the whole game.
Right. Right. The, they say the road to success is paved with failure.
1000%.
Um, so what would you say to somebody who's like questioning coaching? Like why coaching? Why should somebody get a life coach or a health coach or a fitness coach? Like why?
Well, first off, are they breathing? No, not to make it overly universal, but it's similar to how we go to medical doctors for our bodies, right? And
Right.
some more than others, admittedly. We have people that will go to trainers, right? The people that want to go run a marathon. They don't just like wake up and do it one day. They have to train and they have to practice. And usually they resource themselves with expert people who know how to train for marathons.
Right.
I like to say that I like to make sure that I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm not the first person to have a certain feeling, a certain situation. So why not make it a little easier, right? We have a lot of stories around hard means it's worth it, right? No pain, no gain. Why not make it slightly easier? Work with somebody who can walk with you through the feelings,
Right.
the stories, and kind of catch you on your stuff. Like when you're stuck in your own mind, because we'll enter the hamster wheels in our mind, and it makes it really hard to get forward if you're just stuck in a wheel, right?
Right.
So a coach versus a counselor is kind of what I'm playing with currently is, of course, coaches are not licensed professionals. They're still doing a lot of continuing education. I don't know a good coach that isn't, that's just like, oh, I've got it all figured out. I'm good. I'm done.
Right.
Right? You want to make sure that you're finding somebody that's regularly getting educated, staying up to date on evidence-based tools and resources. And then, of course, like if you have anything else specific that's happened, different traumas, different medical conditions, right, that can be diagnosed, like depression, anxiety, uh, postpartum depression, particularly, making sure that you go and resource yourself with those experts. But I always like to make sure you walk alongside. I've worked with a lot of clients where that is a very tricky system to navigate, like
Mm-hmm.
going through the insurances and what provider does what and what's their specialty. And so having somebody walk alongside you to even get to the right provider, I think is a beautiful way to make it easier for yourself.
Right. The path forward.
Exactly.
Um, is what would be like your best piece of like unsolicited advice? If you could put a billboard up that is someone, gonna drive by and you wanted to just shout down to these cars, what would it be?
Ooh, it's so hard to put it into a nutshell for a billboard, right? I would really encourage them to get curious with themselves. So, as you have these different thoughts, isn't that interesting? Not from a shameful place, right? And there's so many different providers uh, that will say that, right? I think it's Shazad Tremaine of Positive Intelligence talks about blameless discernment. So, figure out from the outside looking in what's working, what's not working, and just be really curious with yourself because even that heightened awareness is invaluable.
Yeah, I took that course. That is
Yeah.
a good one.
It's a great one. And just the little pieces, right? He breaks it down into these really palatable pieces of, mindful awareness of your body. And they're so powerful because I think a lot of times, like I said, we get these pictures in our mind. So if I said, I love going to yoga, you may have pictured somebody different, right? We all
Right,
just get these automatic images. But what if you just got curious? Like, oh, she must like to be flexible, right? What if I go to hot yoga versus a kids yoga class with my family? There's just so many different ways to
right.
just get curious with those like snap judgments that we all tend to get again in the attempt of keeping us safe and certain of what we're going to say yes or no to.
Yeah, I love that, breaking it down just to the smaller pieces.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's what you really need, somebody to walk you through and hold your hand. is
Yeah.
all the chaos
Yeah.
and clutter in your mind and everywhere else, and you're just like, just shake my fists at it, right? How do we break that down into smaller chunks and then smaller chunks and then smaller chunks, and then we could digest that slowly.
100%. So often our brain is making it very, very large, especially when it's stuck up there, right? When it's stuck up in there, just ping pong. And that's what I
Yeah,
always like to picture is that ping pong or the pinball game, right? It's just pinballing back and forth and it's got a high score, but no one's winning, you know? So, yeah,
right,
someone that you feel good with and safe with to talk through the different pieces.
right. What was that moment like? Like, what was a moment when you were like, I'm going to shift from this career and this focus into life coaching?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like my brain did a lot of protecting for a minute. So I don't know that I had a good solid one moment, but I remember a pull, truly a pull, and a call to just, if I help at least one person with whatever I put out in On The Fritz coaching, that'll be enough, truly. And so with that, it just made it harder actually to not move forward than to move forward with it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I still, I love my job, right? So cybersecurity, very different than coaching, but also not really. At the end of the day, I feel like we get to coach no matter what. There's humans everywhere.
yeah.
So, you talk about unsolicited advice. I'm working on that. That's a challenge of mine. I'm really trying to make sure it is truly solicited so that it doesn't come off any other way other than wanting to help people.
Yeah, I think just even just the things you say in a normal conversation, it's not so
Mm.
much that you're giving unsolicited advice. You're just like want to make everybody, you know,
Yeah. Because
happy.
it
It's
feels
like the
so much
movie
more
The
free. I was
Secret.
going to say, what was the moment for you? Because do you not feel more free? Like just the shifting that you have, like you get to choose now?
Somebody said to me, "You should be a life coach," and I said, "Okay, I'll do that."
Oh,
And I think once I took that first step, I took a course for health and life coaching, and I fell so in love with the health part. I was like, "Oh my gosh, maybe I want to be a health coach." But I think my natural talent is more life coaching, and so I don't know. I never looked back. I think you find your path. You know what I really like that you said? I mean, so I'll never look back, but I love that you said, I love my job, you know, in cybersecurity. I love this and I love this. And I'm going to figure out a way to make them both work. And
yeah.
so that's such a great balance that you can give to people. Like, you can have more than one thing, you don't have to choose everything.
Yeah.
And
I mean, how many people do you know that go, well, I'm type A, right?
yeah,
Which leans more to, usually the left side of the brain, right? But I wonder what could happen if you could ignite whichever side worked best for you, given the different situations, because we all know there's ones that are going to need more logistics than, the feelings and creativity,
right.
right? But how much better could it be if people had the power to turn on the different powers that they have?
Yeah. And to do it, not be so scared. I don't know. In my past career, I did it for the money, honestly,
Mm, yeah.
and I it was never the job for me. I mean,
Mm,
I did well. I had a lot of successful years, and in the end, it was just I was on a downhill
mm.
roller coaster, and I don't know. I would wake up every morning with like zero passion, and every Monday I had these great plans for the week, and every Friday I would come home from work and be like, I didn't do one flipping thing I should have done this week. I just
Mm.
was in the motions of it. And so,
It's you and 85% of America.
yeah,
Like easily. We just are so trained to climb the ladder, get successful, do the thing, and life is so easy. But we get there and then we're like, this isn't easy. This isn't fun. This isn't fulfilling, right? It didn't feel full for you, it sounds like.
right, right. So I would be your person, right? Call you up and you would just be like, listen, how do we get off this roller coaster
Yeah.
smoothly, right? Because
Yeah.
not everyone can just quit their job.
No, no, no. And that's definitely not what we're saying here. I think some of the things that I'll talk to my clients about is if they're feeling in that place where their job is just it's not it. And again, it's a few too many hours a week to feel like about it, right? Like yes, they pay you, but also like for your soul, like But I would say right now, can you meet your needs in a better way? And that's giving you some money to be able to do that, right?
Right,
I don't think it has to be the thing. And then making a plan. So I've worked with clients before on making plans and making sure that they can get to their next move and do it in a way where they're not going to disrupt their life because job changes are also, a little traumatic at times. It's a lot. It's a big deal, right, for your income. So,
right. How
yeah.
do you feel as a mom? Like you being a mom now that you have these tools in your toolbox versus prior to?
It's really given me so much more intention. So, yes, I still deal with toddler meltdowns. My kids still have feelings, but it honestly has opened me up to see them as the tiny humans that they are and not just that they owe me compliance and they owe me, being a certain way. Because then honestly, they would have ended up in some of the things that I was feeling, the resentment and all of those things. Like they were going to get real trained up naturally to do those types of things down the road. So it's really given me a lot more intention in how I want to show up for our relationship.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it changes. You know, when you change your mindset, everything changes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I remember feeling like, what kind of coach am I? And mindset is actually where I've ended up landing because I do think that that's what a lot of it comes down to.
So changing people's mindsets.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to help so many women. And that hasn't been the case. It's been actually pretty 50-50 split, which I remember feeling very surprised about, but I don't think that men are incapable. I don't think women are incapable. I think it's a choosing of I'm done doing what I've always done and hoping something different happens because it's the definition of insanity.
Right.
So, again, if you're fully there, that might be more of a counselor. But for the most part, if you have that awareness around it and you're capable of going, hey, hold on, I'm going to change what I can change, like some radical self-responsibility. I'm going to make some new changes and see what happens. That's when the
Right.
real fun starts.
What would you say to somebody who's just on the verge? Should I call Sharon on the Fritz or should I not?
I mean, just do it. We've had a lot of fun talking and didn't take too much time, right? I think we can. I always promise people I will help you leave with something, even if it's not me. I'm never promising it's me, but something has you even questioning, should I talk to this person? And if that's the case, let's chat. Let's do a little bit of a dive. Let's dig around and explore and get you on your
Excuse
next,
me.
oh, your next step to feeling better.
So what give me some final thoughts.
Oh, well, I'm just grateful. I'm excited to see that we have so much more going on and so many more people that are working on people's minds, right? Bodies have been around for a while. We've had churches and different religious items covering soul for a bit, but I'm really excited to see coaching build up and get people feeling better. I truly feel like we're part of a movement of intentional living, and I think it's going to be really fun to see the shifts that come with it.
And how could someone get a hold of you?
Yeah. Okay. So onthefritts.org. You can get there if you'd like to trial it out. I did just make my first mini course, and you guys, I had to stop my perfectionism. I kept calling it my first pancake because my first ever course. And you know what they say about your first pancake? Sometimes it's not that good. Ironically enough, my first pancake is usually better than the rest of them. So maybe do this one before my next course. But yeah, just kind of just go and reach out. You can also follow along on On The Fritts coaching on Instagram. What I like to do when my left and my right brain really kind of get together is by talking to the different people in my life, my coaching clients, friends, family, pretty much everybody I come into
Right.
contact with, I see these patterns that are happening. And so I like to, when I see those patterns, make sure the content speaks to that. So, yeah. I'm excited to see
So
who needs
onthefritz.org.
on the
Well,
Fritz.
I want to thank you so much, Sharon, for being on
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
show
Thank you
today,
so much for having me.
and look forward to hearing everything you're doing and all the people you're impacting in this world.
Oh, you too. I see some really good work in the future, so I'm excited.
Thanks.